Hi, I'm Diane McGarry with Drake Arts. With me today are co-host Tom McGarry, soprano Jane Shivick, and ASL interpreter Julia. Jane is equally at home in opera, oratorio, concert, and recital. She has been a soloist with numerous orchestras across New England, including Boston Pops Orchestra, the New York Metropolitan Orchestra, and Massachusetts Symphony Orchestra. She has been broadcast over NPR, WGBH, WICN, WOMR, WCUM. I'm sorry for going so fast, Julia. A graduate of Assumption University and the Hartt School, the University of Hartford, Jane continues to teach in her private home studio and at Joy of Music program in Worcester, which is such a wonderful name to me. I love that. Jane, these are incredible accomplishments. Have you always enjoyed singing? I know I have. I wonder if you have too.
I have. I've always enjoyed singing. I remember, honestly, my first memories of singing would be just going for different rides in the car with my mom and my grandmother. And anytime we would sing anything, my grandmother would always sing the alto harmony. My mother would throw in, some kind of a high harmony, and I'd be on the melody as long as I can remember. And the same with my dad, too. We always enjoyed singing as children, and as we got older, singing in chorus in school and for community events, church. We were always singing, always, all of my brothers and I. Yep.
It's chorus is such a great experience because it teaches you to listen, right? And
Yes.
to harmonize and to fit in with
Yes.
other people, which
Yes.
there are there are few other things between band and choirs that do that for people.
I agree. I agree. I remember driving my daughter to different places when she was little and trying to teach her about singing harmony.
Oh, that's
This
hard.
was, yes, and this was before she really went to school. We did music together classes when she was little. And as she got a little bit older, I introduced her to some musical theater productions that had legit singers singing in roles, not belty or anything. And I would try to sing harmony while she would stay on the melody, and she'd want to switch with me, and we learn how to do that when we're little, right? Um, but she did indeed learn how to do that so that when she got to school and was in chorus, her ear was already trained to that. So she was a little bit ahead.
Well, it's hard to do that, to like be strong and stay where you are with the melody
Exactly.
or the harmony, depending on which one you're doing.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
teaching rounds is like a huge first step in a lot of places.
Huge, huge, huge. And we did that through those music together classes. They were fabulous, especially for young people. She started at, I think, 9 months old, and we went until she was 2.
Wow.
So they would learn these rounds, and they have music books that you can bring home, and I would play them on the piano, and we would learn how to do them that way. So it was a great way. And had I not taken voice lessons or been introduced to Packagug Music School here in the area or Joy of Music program, I wouldn't have known that those music together classes existed.
Yeah, that's a wonderful opportunity for parents to have time with their kids and
Yes,
share the arts. That's great.
it's lovely. It really is lovely.
But that's not all you do because you're off performing by yourself a lot.
That's true.
So how did you go from singing in the car and having all these wonderful times with your parents and grandparents to being a soloist?
Well, I mean, I think church is sort of for most people their first haven that they feel comfortable singing in a group, and then are somehow singled out by either the music director or the organist to do solos and that sort of thing. And so that was my first introduction to doing things like that, definitely.
Yeah, it really lights you up, doesn't it? Because the congregation is so lifted by what you do.
Absolutely. And it's a supportive atmosphere. So, I even for my students today, I'll often say, do you have a church that you go to that you could sing in and possibly do a solo or just sing for Christmas Eve or Easter, anything that can help them get out in the public
Sure.
and maybe out of even the school atmosphere to feel that support and there's no competitiveness.
Right, right. And actually, part of what you're talking about is what I call performance practice, right? It doesn't even necessarily have to do with your singing. It's
Mhm.
being able to get out of your own way, and whether you're shy or awkward or, feel like you're the ugly duckling or the wallflower, to come forward and to just sing in front of people is a whole different skill than being able to sing well, you know,
Agreed.
and
Agreed.
especially instrumentalists, they have their instrument between them and the audience.
Right.
We have nothing. We're like naked.
Exactly. That's exactly what it feels like. Exactly. But students sometimes, will take voice lessons, all ages, just to learn to do something new.
Yeah.
Um, and it builds confidence. I often say to those parents, this is a great way for your child to learn to be confident because you have to stand in front of a person one-on-one and be willing to bare your soul, essentially. I mean, singing comes from inside and it's so deep within you. And this person is going to help you hone those skills. And after you start to develop a trust, a relationship, then it becomes much easier. That barrier is broken down and, the trust is built. And it's a wonderful thing. All kinds of things can be revealed and can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that that's also what happened for you, that you were mentored and then you went on to this fabulous career that you have now.
It's funny because when I went to the Leicester Public Schools here in Leicester, Massachusetts, um, very good public school system. And I believe it was during my seventh or eighth grade year that Prop 2.5 came
Oh,
into play. And my mother knew that they were going to pass it. And she knew that I sang in chorus and played the flute and music was my thing, but I also played sports. And I went on to, she on purpose pulled me from Leicester schools after I graduated in eighth grade and said, you're going to go to Holy Name Central Catholic High School, which was in Worcester. And she didn't tell me at the time, but they are known for their musicals.
well,
Students from Worcester would on purpose eye that school for that reason that we're in the arts. But see, I went and I played field hockey, basketball, and softball, 3 seasons of sports, and I didn't do any music at all. I didn't let anybody know that I sang.
really?
No,
Oh, wow. But see, you wouldn't have been able to do those either if you'd stayed. So that's funny.
it's true. It's true. And, we also come from a sports family, heavy into sports, lots of basketball coaches at the college level. And so we did both. And, my daughter did both too. And then she finally made a choice too. And it was music. So with me in high school, my senior year, my mother finally spoke up to me. And I remember it was like late fall. And she said, Janie, I never told you this, but I sent you to that high school so that you would do music, specifically that musical. And she said, can't you just audition? And I thought, oh my God, Mom, if I audition for that, I have to give up varsity basketball and varsity softball my senior year. Like
Yeah,
those
that's a
are my
lot. That's a
friends.
big ask.
Woo! So the auditions were like middle of December, and before we broke for Christmas break, holiday break, is when they announced it. That last day, they'd announced the musical, what it was, because we never knew what we were auditioning for. And they would announce all the leads and everything. And this is in front of the whole school. It was a huge thing. It was something. So I did audition. I got a lead, and the rest was history.
Oh,
The rest was history. I was introduced to, music directors, and the director, and just immediately fell in love with what I was doing, was very well received. When you do something and people are praising you and
Yeah.
just giving you all this positive feedback, that you might have picked the right thing, or you might have done something well. So yeah, it was after I graduated that this particular music director kind of took me under his wing and said, look, I said, I've got this voice teacher that you might want to look into. And in the meantime, to be quite honest with you, again, my mom was right on it. After I got that lead, she said, we're going to take voice lessons. And I said, why? Why do we have to do that? And she said, because you need to learn how to breathe properly. Now, people in her family sang, but nobody ever did it professionally. And when I tell you, they say everybody just sang well. And, my grandmother was one of 9. They all, would have Sunday dinner like they used to, and everybody gather around the piano and sing in quadruple harmony. I mean, that was that generation, right? That's how they entertained themselves. Big family.
It's a lot cheaper than a TV, and it keeps you healthy.
100%. So, so I went and had those few lessons, learned how to do a recital, did this role, moved on to a more experienced teacher. And from there I was going to college here in Worcester, and from there, honestly, I did chorus in college, and again had one of the bigger voices, one of the more mature voices, and it was obvious that there was something there. And so this teacher helped me to do some auditions and see if I could go to school somehow for music and for voice. So that's sort of my story. I know it's rather lengthy, but
Oh, no, it's beautiful, because a lot of people think that they need to have it all figured out by 14, 15, right?
oh, no. I mean, I have friends that didn't even study seriously until their 20s.
Yeah.
So you can have a career in something totally different and then decide to switch over. I mean, it happens all the time.
It does. It does.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't talk about it very much, though. So I really appreciate your
Correct.
doing that. It's great.
Yes. Yes.
Well, it's an important thing. So what is your favorite part of being a musician?
My favorite part of being a musician is helping people to enjoy the fruits of what I'm doing. So if someone says to me, oh, I felt so good after you did that, or I really could understand that emotion of that character, or oh, I cried when, this sort of thing. That's the joy. I mean, you did your job.
Right.
It's just so amazing that you can help people to feel. And it's been such a thing after this pandemic to get back to, first of all, getting people to come out, and then getting them to feel this, because we've all changed. We've all changed. And so it's been interesting to be pre-pandemic and now after pandemic in terms of how you can help people emote, because I'm not sure it's as easy to tap into with people right now. It's different.
It is
Very
different.
different. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of protections over people's hearts at the moment.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But I mean, ultimately that's what the most enjoyable thing is that people smiled, people felt good, people um, felt
Felt
good,
very, yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah.
So I remember one of my teachers at Hartt saying to me that when Maria Callas played Medea, sitting in the Met and having the curtain open, and it was almost dark, and you could see her eyes
Mhm.
cutting through the darkness. And I thought, wow, if you could just touch people somehow like that amazingly, they will be talking about it for a long time. And he was, so I think that's the most important thing for me.
It's interesting because art is such a useful tool.
Useful
Helps-
too.
It helps people heal. It helps.
Yes.
I work as a therapeutic musician and I use music to help people heal and transition and
Yes.
stabilize. And it reaches people in ways that a lot of people are surprised. Oh, it does that?
True.
But
It's true.
it is true. And that's what the role of art is.
Yes.
And you actually used art to celebrate your and your husband's relationship with this concert that you did for us,
I did. I
which is
did.
an incredible gift.
Thank you. It took me a couple of years to first of all feel better. Second of all, um, have the strength to get through that. But yeah, I was really glad to do that. It was not only a healing moment for me, but I think it was a healing moment for everybody that knew him. I mean, his family, was there, my in-law, they were all in the front row, my mother, everybody, and people that were an extension of me
Yeah.
and knowing everything that I went through. So it was a moment. People are still talking about it, and a year later, and that says something.
Oh,
That
yeah.
says something. So yes, yes.
Yeah. I remember my best friend when she passed, her children took photos of her entire life and they streamed them around the inside of a community center, really,
Oh,
where they
that's
did
beautiful.
like, yeah.
That's
And
beautiful.
what you've done with your concert is string music around everyone.
Exactly. Yep, that's a good way to think of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's a real gift.
Yes, music can tell so much. And I mean, we know already with people with uh, brain trauma or issues with dementia and healing them with music, Alzheimer's patients, and I'm actually taking classes right now with the University of Essex, which is in just outside of London.
Right, right.
We're doing a lot of talk about neuroscience and vocal pedagogy, this sort of thing. And so I just am starting to develop a thesis right now on a paper that I have to write for December. And I wanted to do the research in actually memory and why is it harder for singers to memorize lyrics as they get older. And these are, including myself, people that perform all the time, and yikes, trying to just do two verses in French is like, why aren't I getting, so I just want to know the science behind that, even though we know a lot about memory and cognitive decline and this sort of thing. But I really would like to tap into exactly what's not happening or happening, why certain people can and others can't.
Sure.
And because I think it will help my teaching.
Oh, it will. It will. That's really interesting to look into because when you said that, I remember a conversation I had with my sister years ago. She did theater in high school and stuff. She didn't go on with it, but she was always the ingenue, and she had long monologues and dialogues to do. And I had such a hard time
It's
memorizing that part of the opera. I couldn't memorize the words. I could do lyrics forever because the music carried me.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
doing just words? Like, how do you do that? And she looked at me and she said, how do you do what you're doing? I can't memorize music like that. I have no relationship to the sounds together.
Exactly.
It's very funny. And you're right. I'm sure it's some different neurological part that's going on.
Yeah.
No?
I'm interested to do some of this research. So anyway, I just thought I'd interject that a little bit just because you were saying what you had done and that sort of thing. And for me, when I got out of college, I mean, you just don't walk into a job in music as a singer or a teacher. I mean, we're all doing all kinds of things. So I worked in one of the nursing homes that my mom did restorative nursing in. And I worked on the third floor, which was the Alzheimer's patients floor, which was great because, I mean, my mother's a nurse. So, you kind of develop a lot of the same nurturing skills, that your mom has. And I loved those patients. And I loved going in and singing with them.
Yep.
And, they would just stop the rocking or they would stop yelling, whatever they were doing. And then they would just sing in Italian with me, or one would sing in French with me. And,
Yeah.
I thought, well, just for that moment, their brain is, somebody's coming to the door, sorry. Just for that moment, things were working properly or correctly, and the synapses were, you know what I'm saying? I just
Yes,
felt like in that moment they were home,
they were home. They were
and
home.
that's how it felt.
Yeah. And
How
you
it
brought
felt.
them such an incredible gift by doing that, right? It's
Loved it.
it enriches their lives. It reminds them of what they love and who they are.
Actually.
They are. There was a man wound up singing for in a behavior unit in a hospital, and I wound up singing a lot of John Denver for him because
Oh,
that was his era, and I went on, and he just said, "Now I know I'm going to be okay." Just hearing all these songs with all these lyrics from that he knew
reminded him.
reference point for it put him back in himself. I'm going to be okay now.
Mm.
Whatever else happens. And that's so important. And music does that, right? I mean, I'm sure those people were hearing those songs and it was taking them back in time, but also in the present because they were right there with you.
They had to be,
Yeah.
right? They
Yeah.
had to be. Yeah. Yeah. It was always just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So tell me more about your current performances.
So, okay. I actually just performed in Milton this past weekend.
Oh, nice.
One of my longtime friends, and first was one of my opera coaches at NEC, New England Conservatory, developed a concert series in Milton called the Milton Community Concert Series. And they celebrated 10 years, or they are celebrating 10 years this year. And his idea to do a fundraiser, because it is nonprofit, was to have as many as the singers that have performed and instrumentalists that have performed to come back and do a music marathon.
Oh,
And
cool.
so he has had, I think he told me, and I'm not quoting it, but I'm
All right.
around there. I think they've raised over 10 years, they've raised over $25,000
Great.
for different charities, the food pantry that's in that area. Um, and he's had, I think he said over 344 performers, all different types. He's even had a juggler. He's had people that play, the accordion or that, can do more than one instrument, this sort of thing. Obviously, instrumentalists, singers, different genres. And so there were a few of us that he asked to come and sing from 2 to 5 on Saturday. And those were mini concerts, he called them, for a half hour. It was certain people that were featured. And I believe he asked my colleague and my former first student, Sarah Callanan, who's a soprano, to come and perform because we were literally the first concert ever on
Wow.
the series
That
10
is
years
so
ago.
cool.
Yeah, so we came back and we did some of the duets that we've sung in the past. And so we filled that half hour. Then there was a break, and then they came back with person after person from 6 to 9, and we did a duet in the beginning. And I didn't stay till the end, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, long
But
time. So
it was a long day. Yeah, but it went till 9 o'clock. He said they raised about $3,000 that day. And it was everything that he had hoped it would be. So that was this past Saturday. So again, another feel-good moment, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to revisit duets I hadn't sung in a long time. But yeah, and I didn't remember the words and I used my music. So I just want to say that I did that. And so next month I have a big solo concert coming up on the 17th of November. I'm doing that at the college church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which
nice.
part of the college campus of Atlantic Union College. They are no longer, but the college church still has services. And so doing a concert series there. And it's the first concert that I will have done solo since the one that I did last September for my husband. And so we're calling it Songs of Grace and Gratitude, sort of move forward from the love and transformation.
Yeah.
So maybe like a part two, part two. And then I have the Holiday Pops concert coming up here with the Massachusetts Symphony at Mechanics Hall, glorious Mechanics Hall. It is literally one of the most high, like, concert. I'm on a high when I do this concert because it's
Or the
always
space
sold
is
out.
wonderful.
People are so into it. It's a wonderful evening. I mean, if you don't walk out feeling good, there's something wrong. Seriously. It's wonderful. So I have that. And since I've seen you, I've opened my own singing school.
Yeah,
I've started a new adult community chorus in my area called the Central Massachusetts Festival Chorus.
that sounds fantastic.
So I've been busy doing all of that as well. So I've got some events for that and those organizations coming up as well. So
You've got
busy.
hands full. That's
It's
great.
good though. It's all good because it just makes you happy. I mean, I'm doing what I love, all the time.
Yeah,
It's healing, it's healthy, it feels good, and I love the connections that I make because I love people.
that's
So
great. That's great, Jane. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
thank you.
And if you'd like to hear Jane's performance, where she'll be accompanied by Olga Rogach, I hope I pronounced her name right.
Rogach, yeah.
Gotch, thank you. A
Yeah.
pianist in her own right. She will be our January Arts Saturday performer. Register with Eventbrite. We'd also like to thank our many sponsors for making this program and all of our programs possible. We couldn't do it without their support. If you'd like to see more of these programs, please consider donating yourself at drakeetarts.com/donate. For more information about our Arts Saturdays and all of our programs, please email us at drakeetarts@gmail.com. This and all our programs are archived on the Drake It Arts YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@drakeetarts. Thank you so much for joining us today.